Hello to my stamping and my creative friends. This is Julie at Stamp with Julie Baum. Today I am bringing you a card that is a little bit more challenging. If you're familiar with my channel here, you know that each Saturday I bring you a card that is fast and easy to make. That is part of my regularly scheduled series called Simply Saturday. Then, besides that, you will often see projects that we have made at Stamp Club. So this past week, and this is May of 2024, you might have seen the video where I showed you how we made this cute little coffee-themed corner bookmark. That was a club project. I will often put my club projects here on my YouTube channel. But today's card neither fits in a club project nor a fast and easy project. Now, the card design itself, I did case from another demonstrator. I didn't completely come up with the idea myself, but as often happens is you see a card and you don't have maybe all of the elements that that person has or used on their card, so you have to switch it up. So that's what I have done with this card. I did show my club members this card on Wednesday, and it got lots of oohs and ahs, and so I promised that I would film the video and show how to make this card. So there's lots of parts and pieces, so let's get started. I do have a card base that is made out of early espresso, 5.5 by 8.5 inches, scored and folded at 4 1/4. A very, very typical card base. All right, so that's nothing fancy. Then I have a piece of pecan pie that is trimmed down to Julie's layering template, size number 2, which happens to be 4 inches by 5 1/4. So this piece is going to go on here, but we're going to doctor this piece up. All right. Then I did a little bit of prep before starting to film, just to keep us from being at, 45 minutes or something for a video. So let me show you. I took the deckled circles dies and I chose this size, so kind of right there in the middle. And I used a piece of basic beige cardstock, which is a new color for us. And I did my die cut circle out of basic beige like that. Now you also see that there's a texture to this. So after I cut out my deckled circle, I then took the painted texture 3D embossing folder. I put my die cut circle in there and I ran it through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine so that I could get a lovely texture on my circle. All right, so I did all of that ahead of time so that I didn't have to take the time going to and from the Stampin' Cut embossing machine. So there's that. Then I also, out of basic beige, cut this shape out. Here's the die for that. And that comes from the Stylish Shapes dies, which are no longer available, but have been hugely and wildly popular when they were available. So you may already have these if you are a crafter. If you don't, you can find a similar shape, die or punch, or simply cut a rectangle. All right, so those are pieces that I prepared. Now we're gonna need a couple of mugs of coffee. So let's do our stamping, and I'm going to talk you through a few fun techniques as we do this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is use my early espresso ink and stamp one of the coffee mugs. And this is from Latte Love stamp set with coordinating dies. So because this is a newish set, I was able to purchase it as a bundle, which I always recommend. All right, so I'm going to stamp that coffee mug here on my scrap of white paper. Now, this is really fun, so stick with me. What I want is a second mug, but I want the mirror image. In other words, I want the handle going that way. All right, so because this is just a regular stamp and it's not a reversible stamp, which Stampin' Up! Does offer, some sets are reversibles, you have to use a technique to get the mirror image. So this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take our little silicone mat, which has many uses, but this might be one that you've never used it for. I'm gonna ink up my stamp. again with early espresso. I'm going to go ahead and stamp it here on the silicone mat, pressing straight down, allowing the ink to transfer to the silicone mat, and also being careful not to slide it at all. Then I'm going to take that scrap of white cardstock, turn it over here so I have this blank space, and I'm carefully going to lay it down onto that wet ink. Now at this point, I am going to press my cardstock down into the ink, but I want to make sure that my cardstock doesn't slide on the silicone mat. So I am holding it firmly down, but I'm pressing, letting that ink transfer back up onto the cardstock. There are other ways that you can do this, but I think this is by far the easiest method to get the reverse stamp. And there I have my reverse mug. Look at, isn't that so much fun? Now you can just clean this off with your Simply Chamois or with a little alcohol wipe and just clean that off. No big deal. All right, so once I had my mugs, then I wanted to color them. So I'm just going to color one. For the card, we have two, one in Calypso Coral and one in Lost Lagoon. So I'm going to go ahead and color for you the one in Calypso Coral. So starting with my light marker, I'm just going to kind of shade in the areas. So I'm not going to be super fussy about getting all the way to the edges or being very careful. All right, like so. Then before I complete that, I want to stamp the coffee. So that's this little stamp. So I'll get that here. I'll go ahead and do it in this one, even though I'm not going to color this one on camera. We'll get it ready. Okay. All right, I can continue with my light marker. Go around the rim of the mug. So now I'm using the bullet end just so I have a teeny bit more control since it's a narrow space that I'm coloring. And also on the handle here of the mug. All right, that's with my light. Next, I'm going to move to Calypso Coral Dark, and I'm going to just put some accents right where the artist who created the stamp already gave us some shading. So I'm going to just copy what is already there. I'm going to go slightly to the side of each of these vertical lines. I'm going to come in dark here because the bottom of the mug might look a little darker, so let's shade that a bit. I'll come here along the top rim, and then also just the underside of that handle is probably going to appear darker. Also right where it's attached to the mug would probably be a little shadowy there too. Okay, then to finish this, just so it's not quite so light and dark, I'll come back in with my light marker and I'm just going to blend out those dark lines a little bit just by going over them. This is what's so beautiful about Stampin' Blends, is it allows you to blend and shade and make it look like you are an absolute artist. I can see that I skipped these and these. And I'll blend those like so. All right, we've got a lovely looking hand colored mug. All right, next, what we need to do is cut those out, and there is a die. So when you use the mug die, which it's here in my workspace somewhere. I have so many things on my desk right now. Okay, give me a moment to eyeball it. Where are you, die? There's that one and that one. Okay, this is kind of comical now. Where did that die go? Here it is. Okay, obviously the die is created to cut out the matching stamped image. So there you have it. So now what are we going to do with this? Well, let me just tell you, especially once it's colored, you will be able to see it on the back side. Okay, see how that shows up once it's colored? So if this one was colored, you can take the die, line it up on the back side. I would hold it in place with a little bit of Post-it tape or artist tape just to keep it exactly in place, and then run it through your die cut machine. All right, so once you have done that, you have 2 die cut mugs. All right, now another element that we need are some coffee beans. So this time, instead of stamping on white, I stamp on the Early Espresso cardstock with Early Espresso ink, so tone on tone. And I did 2 of these sets of 4 beans, and I did 1 single bean, and then placed the dies onto those. I did also tape these into place. They're so tiny that by the time you get all of your layers of your plates built, they kind of want to slide. So I did use my artist tape to tape those into place before running them through the die cut machine. And then we end up with our 2 little sets of 4 and our single bean. Okay, so we're getting close to having all of our elements now. All right, one other technique that I'm going to show you involves putting some little splatters on this piece. So let's do that next. As you're going to see here in a moment, we're going to decorate this and make it very deep and kind of moody and coffee looking. And so we don't want this super stark beige piece to be really, really clean. So we're going to speckle it up. And to do that, I'm just going to use my regular Stampin' marker. But if you have the blends, you can do this with blends as well. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to use the brush end, and I'm going to use the cap. And all I'm going to do is flick the brush tip of the marker against the edge of the cap, essentially spraying little ink splatters onto my piece. All right. So it's a very fine mist, so you might have to do a little bit more and build it up in certain spots, but you can see how that's beginning to get a splattered look. Now, the closer that you hold the cap to the paper, the bigger the spots are going to get. All right. The farther away, the finer, more like a mist. So I'm going to put some darker ones in here and some bigger spots. But I also don't want it uniform. I don't want it speckled all over. So I just kind of want it like that. You know what it looks like to me is when I grind espresso beans to make an Americano or to make a coffee drink. It looks like the little grounds from coffee kind of got splattered onto the paper. All right, so there we have that. Now, I mentioned that we're gonna get this all moody and coffee themed. So let's do that next. All right, the first thing that I'm going to do is take 2 stamps from that stamp set. This one, which is kind of like the rings that a mug might leave behind on your table or on a piece of paper. And then also the little splatters. So with my, I think I'm still going to use Early Espresso. I'm trying to decide if I should use Pecan Pie or Early Espresso. You know what? Let's use Pecan Pie. We can always go darker if we need to, but I'm afraid if those are too dark, we can't back up the ink bus. All right, so let's try a couple of rings with this first. Yeah, this is what I want. Okay, so a couple in that corner and a couple there. And then let's do some ink, some coffee splatters with our ink. All right, and you can see since I have my scratch paper underneath my paper, I am stamping off the edge so that I'm filling the paper. You don't want to be confined to the edges of your paper by just stamping on the paper. You want to go off the edges. All right, so there we have that. That is going well. All right, now I'm going to put that pecan pie aside, go back to my early espresso, and this time I'm going to take my little blender brush. All right, so I'm going to pick up ink from my ink pad. And then what I always recommend is that you lay that blender brush down on scratch paper first so that you don't get a blob of ink on your card, and then pull it onto your cardstock. So now I'm going to start building up color with this early espresso. And at this point you can go as light or as dark as you want. I'm going to go all the way around the edges. I'm going to come back in here a little bit. Okay, so we're giving it a dark and mysterious espresso color. I think that that is actually what sets this card apart, to just look so well thought out. All right, now most of the middle of my card is going to be covered with other elements, so I think I'm going to stop with that. You can see I've gone all the way around the edges, a lot here in my stamped areas. Not hard, but it is that extra step and extra element that you need to do. Okay, this is pretty inky, so just for safety, I'm going to flip this over. I don't want to transfer any espresso ink to something that doesn't need it. All right, let's see. We've got a little bit more stamping to do. Let's stamp on our little banner piece here that was die cut. And what I'm going to do on here, which I think is an important note, so that's why I'm glad this came up on this card. This is way too big for the card that I'm going to use. It's too large of an element where I want it to go on the card, but that's fine because we're going to cut it. So again, try to think beyond just exactly what's in front of you and think about how you can use it maybe instead. So watch. I'm going to stamp my words way over to the left of this banner because we're going to cut that other part off. So it's not going to end up being that long. All right, like that. I'm so excited. Okay. Let's start building our card. Let's put this piece completely together and then we'll attach it to our card base. So this deckled circle with our little espresso splatters is going to go onto the card somewhere in this area, and that piece, that little edge, is going to get cut off. I'm leaving about an inch maybe from that left side of the paper. Certainly nothing you need to worry about measuring, just kind of eyeball it. All right, and then one other thing that I want to do before I attach that is pull in my ribbon. So I've got this really cute burlap with the polka dot ribbon that matches the coffee theme so well. And I'm going to trim these ends on the diagonal like so, and this one. All right, now these are actually going to just peek out from behind this circle. Maybe something like that. Okay, so we've got that in mind. This is where we start attaching things. All right, I think I mentioned in another video, but I'll say it again. I really like the Stampin' Seal Plus to attach this ribbon, although you could use a couple of glue dots on the back of each piece, but it's very kind of wiry and textury. Is that a word? And so it does need something strong to hold it in place. So I'm going to move this one out of the way and put my Stampin' Seal strip right onto the paper because it doesn't seem to want to attach itself very well to the ribbon itself. And now that's in place. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this second strip. Now keep in mind, only these little edges are going to stick out. That circle of ours is going to cover all the rest. All right, this is still kind of loose, so I think I can just put a little dab of glue there. All right. Now let's get our circle. We have to decide. It's very heavily splattered here, not so much here. I think I'll use it in this position. And because I'm going over the thickness of that ribbon, I'm going to go ahead and use my Stampin' Seal Plus on this as well. I was going to reach for my green glue, but I think I will opt for seal. All right, here we go. Now we're building our card. So this is going to go down onto that panel. This part is going to get cut off, and I'm going to reach for some larger scissors just to make that faster instead of using my snips. And it's sticky from my seal. I'm gonna have to clean my scissors after this. All right, there we have that piece. Next, we're gonna attach this, and this only needs to go on about like that. So same thing, we're gonna attach it and then cut it off right there. So as I mentioned, this is a really big banner. It'd be kind of large for this card. I mean, you could make it work, but knowing that I was going to cut some of it off, it's perfect. So I don't need seal way over here because that part's going to get cut off. And I suppose if you had wanted to, I'm going to straighten this out on my grid paper so that I make sure that this is nice and straight. There we go. You could have put some splatters on here too. I don't know if that would have been overkill. All right, press that on and snip off the overhang. Okay, next our cups. So I'm going to put this mug right about there, and that one is going to be flat. And then this one near it, like so, and we'll pop this one up on dimensionals. I kind of have my rhythm going here tonight with my Stampin' Seal, so I'm just going to continue, but you could definitely use your multi-purpose glue to attach this at this point if you want to. All right, so I want it slightly overlapping my tag. It looks cute against that beige circle. And then we need our dimensionals onto this piece. So I'm going to use 3, 2 at the top, 1 at the bottom. I think that will be plenty. This is a lot of fun showing you how to make a card that's got a few more challenges. I love bringing you my Simply Saturday cards that are fast and easy, but there's definitely cards that I can't show in that series because they don't qualify for either fast nor easy. Okay, we've got that into place. Now all we need to do is attach our little beans. So I'm going to do a dry fit first just to kind of see where I want them. I think I want some tucked under each mug. So like that, maybe like that. And then I still have that single bean that can go somewhere. We can put it here. We can put it over here. I don't know. My eye kind of wants it up here, but I feel like it's kind of floating up in the air. So I'll probably put all my beans down here at the bottom. This is tiny. You could certainly use your little cross-lock scissors if you wanted to. Okay, beans. The other thing I could do is slide these over here and then put this one by itself. I don't know, that looks a little symmetrical to me, so I'm not going to do that. Let's go with that, and then the last one right here. I'm going to use my take your pick tool to pick this little guy up because it's kind of hard to grab. All right, press all those into place. And we are just about finished. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to do is attach this to the front of the card. All right, this is very dark on the inside, and what a natural thought would be is to put a white panel, but I think because we used basic beige, I'm going to use a beige panel on the inside of that. And I'm saying that out loud to remind myself that I'm going to have to go over to my paper cutter and cut a piece, because I did not pre-plan for that before I started my video. So let's get this into place. Look at how good that this layer looks against the early espresso since we blended all that ink color. Oh my goodness. Okay, now you're gonna hold tight. I gotta take my microphone off so I can go and cut my piece. I will be back in just a couple seconds. Don't go away. Okay, speedy, speedy. There's our piece of basic beige, which I think is a good choice to go in here. White would have just looked really white. And let's decorate this a teeny bit. We've already got our ink and our stamps out. Why not? So let's continue with Pecan Pie and put a couple of splatters. I think I'll put one that's a little bit lighter, stamping off, and then one here. Yep. And same thing with a ring and maybe a lighter one. Here we go. All right, super fast. And this can now get attached to the inside. There were 2 other cards that I showed to my Stamp Club members on Wednesday that I will make videos of as well. So keep checking back here at my channel to see if you're a subscriber, and especially if you're a subscriber and you have clicked the notification bell, then you'll be sure to get a notice each time I put a new video up. But I am going crazy with all this coffee stuff, and I will be bringing you more cards with coffee theme, lattes and cappuccinos and so forth. So there is our fun and a little bit more challenging card. I hope today was really fun for you to see those extra techniques, learning how to do the reverse image of a stamp, seeing how to use the blender brush a little bit and adding some color, and then also that deckled circle and so forth. So many fun things. I'm so glad that you took the time to watch my video today. I'll put some information for you in the description box below this video, and it will include the sizes, the dimensions of all the pieces that I used tonight, and also a list of all these products. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have fun creating, and until next time, happy stamping.